Hi folks, it's Coach Kelvin here from the We Run Virtual Run Club and We Run Coach for Leeds and surrounding areas, as well as online coaching. In this little video, I'd like to share some thoughts on tapering. So that is, after you've completed a race-specific training block, we've got high levels of fitness, but also high levels of fatigue. And the idea is to maintain as much fitness as possible whilst shedding fatigue. And there's a few ways to do that. Generally, the bigger the training block's been, or the longer the race is, the longer the taper. So a taper could be anything from 3 or 4 days for a 5k, all the way up to 3 weeks for maybe 100k and 100 miler. And to a certain degree, it depends on the individual. But one thing I do want to sort of chat about is make sure that you've got something to taper from. So something that we often see is people rolling into a taper like a couple of easier weeks of less training load, when maybe the training in the previous 4 weeks has been a little bit fragmented. So we do need to make sure that we've actually got something to taper from. So we've actually been doing what we call functional overreaching. Kind of like overloading on purpose to sort of create a training stimulus that the body's going to respond to and build back up stronger. So make sure that you've actually got something to taper from before you taper. The other thing that I'd like to talk about is a little bit of a challenge, and that is you don't know how well your taper's gone, or your training for that matter, until the end of your race. So, don't make that mistake of a few days into the taper, start to question your fitness, question how the taper's going. I raced a 50k last year, and honestly, I jogged a mile to the start line and I felt awful, and then had a really great race. So it was how the race went, I sort of reflected on. So how well my training went, how well the taper went, and how well the race went. We definitely see people starting to panic, halfway through a taper that things aren't going well. And really, until we've completed our race, we don't know. The other thing is to make sure that we're keeping some intensity in the taper as well. So if you've got a sort of percentage of intensity split in your training, make sure you continue that into your taper as well. We don't just drop into easy running. If we've been doing sort of bouts of faster paced running as well, we don't want the body to get sleepy. We want it to stay sharp, but well rested. Also, it's worth bearing in mind to probably eat as much in your taper as you do in your peak training block, and certainly that goes for hydration as well. So, particularly the few days that lead up to the race, make sure that we're adding a little bit of extra starchy carbohydrate into each meal, making sure that we're hydrated well, that sodium intake is also where it needs to be. So I hope that makes some sort of sense, and if you've got any questions, please pop them in the comments below. And for now, happy running!